Hi everyone, welcome back. In this video we are going to study the classification of microorganisms. So the microorganisms are broadly or mainly classified into three categories. One is prokaryotic, second one is eukaryotic, then third one is acellular microorganisms. So examples for prokaryotic microorganisms are especially bacteria, cyanobacteria and mycoplasma. Then bacteria are further classified based on various criteria. So based on shape they are cocci, bacilli, spirilla, vibrios. Based on gram staining, gram positive, gram negative. Based on oxygen requirement, aerobic, anaerobic, and other types like cyanobacteria and mycoplasma. Then coming to eukaryotic microorganisms, there are different types. One is fungi, another one is protozoa, then algae. Example for fungi, yeast and molds. Example for protozoa, amoeba and plasmodium. Example for algae, chlamydomonas and diatoms. Then acellular microorganisms, types viruses, viroids and prions. And now what is this prokaryotic microorganisms? So these are the features or characteristics of prokaryotic microorganisms. No true nucleus. DNA is free in cytoplasm. There is no membrane bound organelles, means there is no membrane attached components. Then simple in structure and reproduced by binary fission. Examples for this category is bacteria, cyanobacteria and mycoplasma. Now the classification of bacteria. It is classified based on shape. Cocci, it is spherical in shape. Example streptococcus. Here in this diagram we can see it is spherical in shape. Then bacilli, it is rod shaped. Example E. coli. Here we can see it is rod shaped. Then spirilla, example spirillum. So it is like this structure. Then vibrios, it is a comma shaped. Example vibrio cholerae. Here in this diagram we can see. Then based on gram staining, it is categorized as gram positive and gram negative. Here the thick cell wall in the purple color, it is gram positive, and pink color it is gram negative. Now based on oxygen requirement, so the bacteria which requires oxygen, they are called as aerobic. The bacteria which does not require oxygen, it is called as anaerobic. Some bacteria are there which are called as facultative anaerobes. They can survive with or without oxygen. Then eukaryotic microorganisms. Key features are they contain true nucleus. There is a membrane bound components, means the components or organelles are attached to the membrane. Then it is more complex structure as compared to prokaryotes. Example and types here, fungi. The features are it is non-photosynthetic, made up of the cell wall is made up of chitin component, and it is reproduced by spores. Types is yeast, it is unicellular, and molds multicellular. Yeast and molds. Example candida and asparagus. Then protozoa, it is unicellular and motile, means it can be able to move from one place to another place. Then it contains flagella, cilia for its movement. Examples amoeba and plasmodium. Then algae. Features are it is photosynthetic, it contains chlorophyll, and it is live in water. That is why it is called as aquatic organisms. Example chlamydomonas and diatoms. So acellular microorganisms, the key features are it does not contain a complete cell, it only contains a part of cellular structure. It requires host for its reproduction. Independently it cannot survive, it always requires a host for its survival. Types example, viruses. The viruses either made up of DNA or RNA with a protein coat. Example, HIV virus, then influenza virus. So in this table we can see the category, cell type, nucleus and example. Category prokaryotes, cell type it is cellular, nucleus there is no nucleus, example bacteria. Eukaryotes, it contains cell, then nucleus is present, example fungi and protozoa. Then acellular means it does not contain any cell, complete cell, there is no nucleus, example virus.